Thanks, Peter, and thanks for everyone who's supporting me right now. This is a dream come true. Let's dive in. Let's have fun. So a little bit of a background. So in 2010, one of the richest men in the world, Bernardo, gives a phone call to the at the time CEO of Hermes to tell him, "Hey, in 2 hours, the media will know that I've been buying shares of Hermes for a while, and probably a hostile takeover will happen." So at that time, the conflict starts, and Hermes had to do something with that. Patrick Thomas at the time was the first CEO who was not part of the family. This was part of Bernard's strategy. Their quick answer to that was building a financial holding called Age 51. So the family was completely dispersed and misaligned, had to agree on building this financial tool that would protect at least 51% of the shares. So it would be impossible in the beginning to Bernardo to take over Hermes. The problem was, if any other participant or heir of the family of Hermes would agree to sell the shares to Bernardo, probably the takeover would be complete. The conflict lasted 4 years. We all know the end of the story. MS was able to keep its governance, but the story could have been rewritten, and we could have avoided a few consequences that we will talk about in this presentation. So why this case? For you to understand my biases. Three main reasons. First, it would be a challenge for me to get as a researcher sources in Portuguese, French, and English, because my first inference was probably I'll see some biases during my research, and it was an aha moment when I saw that French sources mention mediation as the resolution, and a few other sources never mention mediation. And I had the chance to talk to two professors inside the NCR faculty that teaches family business, and they told me that their idea was that it was not a mediation, it was a state intervention there that took to the conclusion. Second, I work in a VC world, so I'm a venture capitalist, so I'm super interested in M&A and the conflicts that happen during mergers acquisition. And third, I have this deep interest in understanding how to negotiate or how to resolve a conflict when it has power and ego involved. So it takes us to the main question. How would a strategist change if he was invited to participate in a more proactive way to solve this conflict before an external threat, especially a hostile takeover? So the conflict map at the time helped me understand the primary actors, but I wanted to use the theoretical lenses to avoid disperse tactic. So my idea was I would focus specifically on the Hermes side of the conflict, helping theoretically Patrick Thomas, again, the first CEO that was not part of the family, to be a champion and to be the weaving broker that would lead this conflict to a better resolution. I used many tools, but one of them that got me to the second aha moment was the circle of conflict, because the idea of dividers and connectors, and using my engineering background, took me to understanding that it's kind of a spring having forces towards like different directions, but I needed to find a way to understand why the family was not getting together, seeing the common enemy as something that would put them together to solve this conflict. And then I had this second aha moment, which was, it is a classic prisoner's dilemma. Because if people were not to cooperate, one of them would sell the shares and then the price of the shares would decrease. But if they were to cooperate, then they would benefit from a delayed gratification. And that was the aha moment. So beautiful. Now that I understood this is a prisoner's dilemma, what are the needs? So I could identify three needs. Cultural security. So Hermes wanted, and this was something weaving the hairs, they wanted to protect the governance of the culture, somehow follow the money to understand the incentives. So there was safety and security in regards of keeping the financial structure intact. And then the emerging need of, we need to keep building trust and legitimacy within the family to put these people together to cooperate. So then comes my three interventions, and they needed to be applied in a chronological way. They need to be sequenced. First, we need to empower the champion, which is Patrick Thomas. So we need him to understand how important it is to be prepared to any crisis, not just a takeover attempt, but any crisis. And this we have the buy-in of him, and then the managerial team who has a few hairs at the time, had a few hairs at the time, to cooperate with the idea of preparing the hairs and the managerial team to deal with any conflict. And then we will move into a future search intervention, which is, if I'm here right now to deal with the grudges, probably we won't get the buy-in, it will be reported with the hairs. So the idea is, can we create a future scenario in which MS guaranteed and protected its governance, and everyone have what they wanted, which is protected, safe, and security? Let's think forward and not try to solve our grudges right now. And then we move to the third, which is, now that we have buy-in, now that we have a future scenario created in which people have their needs met, then we can have a discussion using the culture and the interested and the financial interested to then try to solve a few grudges within the family. As a venture capitalist, I'm used to see a lot of SWOT analysis, but one thing that was important to me when I saw this internal and external threat was the buy-in was extremely important, but the threat was not the huge the attempt in that Bernard Arnault applied over Hermes. The threat was probably this fracture inside the family could become public, and then it would have a ripple effect in this case. My point of view, I would have redone this project using the social analysis, network analysis with the conflict map. But I was lucky enough to see that when I had the chance to get in touch with the idea of the social network, two other champions could be integrated to this with Patrick Thomas, which was two family heirs. One of them was the one always publicly speaking about the families, and the other one became the CEO of Hermes. So the idea was, hey, can we make Patrick Thomas, Bertrand Poch, and Axel Dumas, who became the CEO now, champions in this process as well, because they are important brokers, then probably we have the result that we wanted in this project. Again, I had like quantitative and qualitative ways of understanding in the end if my intervention would be successful. And I had this idea of building the scenarios. The preferable one was everyone getting into age 51 and protecting the family governance and financial shares. And the possible one, which is the family will still be divided. Some of them will be able to protect their shares, some will not. And this was something that I wanted to avoid. So this is a recent news. 2 weeks ago, Axel Dumas came public to say that one of the heirs was about to lose 14 billion euros because it was not part of age 51. So this is something that probably the intervention would avoid if this strategist was hired to prepare the company to deal with any potential threat. Some lesson learned, and I'll focus just in one specific lesson. There is this saying that says, when two elephants are fighting, the grass that gets trampled. So if I was to rebuild the strategy, probably I used as a soft power the shareholders, which was marginalized of this project, to be a soft power as well. So how can we use small shareholders to publicly speak about this conflict and then help Hermes and the small shareholders to create a narrative to protect Hermes governance? My references, and thanks you all for your support this whole time.